Hello guys, and welcome back to another Blender tutorial. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make this dynamic poking animation in Blender. It's completely loopable, and now keep in mind, and I will clarify this in the beginning, this is only really the animation. So I'm going to show you everything you need to know to make this loopable animation from scratch, but when it comes to the materials and stuff, I'm not really going to be covering that. You can go ahead and add your own materials, light this however you want. The main thing we're looking at here is how to actually make this dynamic animation. And once you do that, the sky's the limit with materials and lighting. So let's jump into this, and I will be uploading my original to Patreon. Okay, so let's go ahead, open up a new scene in Blender, select all of the default objects, and you can press delete on your keyboard. So we have now open scene. We're gonna go Shift A, we're gonna go to our measure options. Let's add in a plane, tab into edit mode, and let's go I to insert it, like so. And we're gonna go let's go about this much. Then we're going to go E to extrude, and we're going to go Z, and we're going to extrude down, like so. We're going to go X and delete that face. And let's go Shift Alt and left click on this outer edge and go E to extrude and Z. Let's just bring it down about that much. And you don't have to join these two, but if you want to, you can select both edges, because I don't think we're really going to see it, but you can select both edges and go Control E and go bridge edge loops if you want. But we're just going to go something like this. And what you're going to do is you're going to press A to select everything. In fact, before we do that, let's actually just go in here and go Shift Alt left click, just select this edge, Shift D to duplicate it, and then F to fill that, and let's go P and separate selection. And now in object mode again, we have two objects, right? So let's just select this guy, tab into edit mode, A to select everything, Alt B, and let's just create a slight bevel. Like that, tab back out, right click and go Shade Smooth. So now we have this. We're going to grab this bit we just made. We're going to go G, Z, and move it up, like so. And we're going to tab into edit mode and go A to select the whole thing. Right click, we're going to go subdivide. Let's go to the subdivision tab and make it something like 30. Or maybe even 50, okay? So yeah, 50 should be fine. Tab back out. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go Shift A. We're going to add in a cylinder. We're going to go into our front orthographic view. We're going to tab into edit mode, and we're going to go RX90 in our front orthographic view. We've just selected in edit mode. We're going to scale it down. We're going to go G and move it over, and let's place it about here and scale it down a bit more. You guys kind of see where we're going with this, and we're going to select this over here, and we're just going to go I to inset it, and then E to extrude. Let's extrude it out about that much. We're then going to go Shift A and just left click on here to select this edge and go Control B just to create a bevel. You can roll the middle mouse button to add more segments. Tab back out and then right click and go Shade Auto Smooth. And then go over to your modifiers, and let's give this a mirror modifier. And because our origin point is still in the middle, because we edited it in edit mode, it should all be mirrored perfectly. Okay, so now we have this. So we're going to take these two objects, these two here. And holding in Shift, we're going to select this rod thing we just created, and we're going to go Control P, and we're going to go Object, and we're going to keep the transform. So now if we grab this and we go G to move it or rotate it, you can see that all goes along. Okay, so really good stuff. For now, we're also just going to grab this, and let's just for now just go into cycles. We're not doing any materials just yet, but we'll just quickly go into cycles, and let's just select this and go to our materials. And with this kind of frame here, we're just going to go new. Let's just call it metal 1. And let's just select this rod as well and go give it that metal 1. And let's grab this thing over here and let's just go new. And let's just call it soft, because it's going to be the soft squishy thing. You can call your materials whatever you want. The only reason we're doing this is so that later when we duplicate this, it already carries the same materials. So what we're going to do is we're going to select all of this. We'll go Shift D to duplicate, and let's just actually, with that still active, let's just go Control I to inverse the selection to grab the first one and just go H to hide it. So now we just have this one here, and let's grab this rod over here, and so this is the duplicated one, so it should say cylinder.001. Let's go over to 130, and in 130 we're just going to go I and insert a location keyframe, and let's just go over to 190. And on 190, let's go I and insert a location as well. The only thing is we're going to come back to 130. We're going to enable our auto keying, and in our top orthographic view, we're going to go G, Y, and we're just going to move it back till it's kind of out of sight around here. And now it should automatically be keyed for that location. Let's turn this off. So now this is what's going to happen, right? So let's go Alt-H to bring back our original. And with that said, let's actually grab our original one here, the rod over here. And let's also come to 130, and we're going to go I. We're going to insert a location, and let's come over to 190, okay, as well. And let's go enable auto keying, go to our top orthographic view. If it's still active, we're going to go G, Y, and we're going to move this one forward, like so. Turn off the auto keying. And now if we go to frame 1 and we hit the spacebar, this is what we're going to see, right? I mean, this is where it's going to be stationary because we're going to have the thing happening with the pokers, but then it's going to get replaced. Okay, that's kind of important that we do that up at first, so it's out of the way. And now we can go ahead and grab this one. So we're going to frame 1. And on frame 1, we're going to go over to our physics properties. We're going to give this a dynamic paint. We're going to make it canvas, which it is by default, and go add canvas. And then just come here to the surface type and make it displace. That's all we have to do. And what we need to do now is go Shift A. We need to add in a cylinder. Tab into edit mode and go S to scale it down however you want. And let's grab the top face and go G, Z, and move it up. And you can make this whatever size you want. The idea here is to make it a nice tall cylinder. Grab the bottom, E to extrude, and Z, bring it down. And then S to scale it to a nice fine point. You can even go F3 and go merge collapse. So it's all one vertex. And then you can come over here, Control R, double G, just to slide in edge. That's optional, but it just kind of helps with the shading a bit. And tab back out, right click and go auto shade smooth. And now you should have this. So we're going to move it up. And if you have this weird shading, you might want to come here and just slide down an extra loop if you want, but completely up to you. You can make this whatever sort of object you want. Just make a spiky cylinder. It can be as spiky as you want it to be or as dull as you want it to be. The idea here is going to be making a sharp imprint. So we're going to actually also, before we go any further, just grab this plane here, tab into edit mode, just go over here to our viewport overlays and enable normals down here. And you can see the normals are facing down. That's going to be an issue. So we need to go N, or Alt-N actually, with all of this active. So Alt-N, let's just go flip so the normals are pointing up. Okay, that's really important. So now what we can do is we can grab this guy over here and let's just go G, move them roughly over here. But we're not going to be perfect with this because, you know, if they're a little bit different, it doesn't matter. Then we're going to go Shift A, we're going to add in an empty. We're going to move this empty over here and go S to scale it down, just roughly in place like this, and go G, Z, and move it up. And by the way, we're still on frame 1. We're then going to grab this rod, holding in Shift, select this empty, go Control P, and go Object, keep transform. So now we're going to grab this guy here. We're going to go G, Z, maybe move it down just a little bit. And on frame 1, we're going to go I. We're going to insert a location. Let's come over to frame 35, and then we're going to go G, Z, and bring it down till it's kind of poked in here. We're going to go I, insert a location, and then we're going to come up to frame 70, and we're going to go, in fact, let's just grab the first keyframe over here and go Shift D to duplicate, and just drag it over to frame 70. So this is what we're going to get. Okay, now all we're going to do is with this guy active, is just go over to your physics, give it a dynamic paint. This time you're going to make it brush and go add brush. So now if we go to frame 1 and we hit the spacebar, this is what we have. Pretty cool. Let's select this plane, right click and go shade smooth. And let's just go and give that a subdivision surface modifier. So you might have to go back to frame 1, just hit it again and it should run. You can see that's looking really nice. And it's also very satisfying to look at. Okay, so now all we have to do is simply grab this empty and this guy over here. Go to your top view and then go Shift D to duplicate and move it over. And I'm just eyeing this. And then we're going to grab this rod over here. The duplication, we're going to grab its keyframe. So we're going to go G and move it up till it starts at frame 30. Then we're going to grab these two that we just duplicated and go Shift D and duplicate those two, move them over here. Grab the rod again and grab those keyframes and then go G, move it all up to frame 60. And then select that last duplication and go Shift D, move that one over. And then once again, select the poker and then just grab that and then move it up to frame 90. So the first one starts there. So now what you're going to do is you go to frame 1 and you hit the spacebar, they're all going to have this 30 frame offset from each other, like so. And then it's going to move along. Now, what happened here, you can see this one moved along too early. So it kind of touched over here. So what I might do is with this last one, okay, what I'm going to do here is quite simple. I'm just going to grab this rod over here, and it's moving a little bit too early. So I'll just take this and just move it up a little bit more, just giving it a little bit more time. But you might not have the same issue. Okay, so go back to frame 1, hit the space bar, just run it again, because it is kind of like a simulation in a sense. So we're going to have a look at that. Okay, now that issue is resolved. So not a big deal. Now all you have to do is go to frame 1, because that's where it all kind of is starting. Shift A, let's add in a plane. G, Z, move it down. Tab into edit mode and go E to extrude and Z to extrude up like so. And then E to extrude and S to scale up like so. And then E to extrude and Z, go up a little bit. Just making something cool looking, and then go X and delete that face. Now you can see the normals are pointing out. We want to go A to select everything, go Alt N. Let's just flip those normals so they're all pointing inwards. That's going to make sense later with our shading. And let's now just grab this outer edge, Shift D to duplicate, right click to let go, E to extrude, S to scale, and let's just scale that out like so. You can do whatever sort of decorative edge you want. I'm just going to go with that. In fact, I'm just going to select this separate piece and go P and just separate that selection. So now we have this. You might want to grab this thing in here and tab into edit mode and just go Control B and just give it all a slight bevel. Just make it look a bit smoother, right click and go shade smooth as well. So that is what we have so far. So now we need to just come over here. I'm going to go with something like this, and I'm going to go Shift A, add in a camera. And I'm going to press 0 to go into the camera view, G, middle mouse button to pull back. And let's go with something like this. We're going to go over to our camera settings and make it orthographic. And then at this point, you have to use the orthographic scale to zoom in or out. And I'm going to just go and change the pivot transform to 3D cursor. I'm going to double tap R and just rotate my camera around the cursor. And I'm going to just align it in a way that I think looks good. Remember, if you want to zoom in or out with the orthographic, you will have to use the scale here. Now I'm also going to just rotate it around till I get something that I think looks cool. So this is completely up to you, but I think this looks really cool. And the nice thing is, if you go to frame 1 and you hit the space bar, you're going to see this thing should be loopable. So it's going to go back to where it started, and then the next one slides in. Now let's just also give this 200 frames. That's all we really need on the end value. And let's also grab this plane here that we started with. Let's just go over to our physics, and with the canvas here, let's just go down to the cache. And let's make sure the end value up here is set to 200. And we will have to come here and bake it. Now for some reason, it doesn't want to bake. I might have to go back to frame 1. Okay, that's really strange. For some reason, it's not giving me the option here to bake. Not quite sure why that is, but I'll just leave it at that for now. I think this is still looking pretty good, and hopefully that won't cause any issues when we render. So we are already in cycles. So we're going to go Shift A, we're going to add in an area light, go G, Z, move it up. Let's just give that a strength of 300 and increase the size. Let's go Z, let's go rendered. And if you go Control B, you can drag over this just to limit the render to the viewport or the camera here anyway. And then you can come over here and let's select this thing we've already given a material to. This kind of box that it's contained in. Let's go to our materials tab. We called it metal 1. Let's go to surface and let's make it kind of, I'm going to go with something like this just for this example. I'm going to go with a metallic. I'm going to bring down that roughness a bit to make it more reflective. You can add a texture if you wish. Then I'm going to grab this thing here that's getting the soft bit. I'm going to just give that kind of like maybe a reddish kind of pinkish color. Bring down that roughness. Once again, if you add texture to this, it's going to look a lot better. And then you can select these individual rods here. Maybe give them a metallic material. Make it a bit darker. Bring down the roughness a little bit. Whatever you guys feel would work for your scene. And then just share that material with the other rods as well. So you can see this is what we have. And then what you can do, you can use your own set of materials. Like I said, this isn't really going to get into materials, but you can import a material. I'm going to just get one that I already have, so I'm just going to append it. By the way, if you want to know about this material, I actually got it from Polyhaven. It was a free one. It's just called Square Corners, and you download the blend file. I'm not going to really cover it because I've covered it before in other tutorials, but you can essentially just append a material, and then under your materials you can go ahead and add it to that. So in this case, I'm just going to go ahead and UV unwrap it. So you can see we now have these tiles. Really, like I said, this is not the main thing I'm covering. The idea here is just to teach you how to make this loopable. And then I'm just going to use an add-on that I have called Biome Reader. You can just simply go ahead, find it online, it's free. And I think Ask NK has a video covering it. If I remember, I'll add it to the description below. It's a free add-on you can get for Blender. And essentially just allows you to select an object, go to your scatter settings, and then you have all of these different options. So I'm just going to maybe go with this one over here. Like I said in the beginning, I did clarify that this is not going to be about shaders and materials. I'm just going to do a brief covering of this quickly. The main idea here was just making this thing that we've made, the actual animation. So at this point, you can add all sorts of cool materials. You can work on your lighting, add some HDRIs, whatever you feel your scene requires. And as always, make sure to save as you're working. But this is pretty much how I made this. And once you render this out as an animation, you'll see it's actually quite loopable. So I'll quickly show you guys my original. So you can see this is my original here. And it's the exact same thing I've shown you. The only difference is, of course, here I spent a bit more time on my lighting and materials and just kind of focused my camera a little bit better. But overall, it's the exact same tutorial. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I'll be uploading my original to Patreon, and I'll see you guys next time for another tutorial.